1048 49 50. Gladstone Brooks.
Well, more now on the situation in Egypt, where supporters of the ousted President Mohamed Morsi are taking to the streets this afternoon to protest against what they insist is a military coup in their country.
Well, joining us are the Egyptian commentator Sarah Miniawy Hefni and Middle East expert Nabila Ramdani. To you first, Nabila, do you think this can be defined as a military coup?
Well, yes, absolutely, no doubt about it. And any objective observer who looks at what's happened in Egypt cannot possibly say otherwise. And if you look at the facts purely, all the old cliches, the clumsy post-colonial cliches of a coup were played out. The army deployed tanks on the streets, they stormed into TV newsrooms, they rounded up hundreds of democratically elected Islamist politicians. They even arrested the president, they prevented him from addressing the nation, instead playing patriotic music on national television. They issued travel bans on members of the Muslim Brotherhood. So with all this, we can safely say that a coup was played out.
Sarah, do you concur with that? Because the semantics of it are very important, aren't they?
I don't, actually. I don't think it's a military coup. If we call it a military coup, then there's a danger of completely undermining the agency of 30 million people who actually went out there and asked for him to step down. He had no intention of stepping down. The military went in and did what the people asked them to do. So it is a coup. It's premature to call it a military coup. We've yet to see what's going to happen in the next 6 months. We'll see whether Egyptian people will be able to persevere and get what they want, or whether we'll have the same scenario reoccur and we'll have the military leading the way and imposing their will. So it's premature. It's a coup backed by...
I mean, all through history in countries, there have been times when the military have intervened when the existing system wasn't working. Now, it's not democratic, but with hindsight, in many of those cases, people might say it was for the better.
Not really. I think historically, military coups tend not to produce democratic societies, so it can't be for the better.
I mean, Turkey would be one example.
It went through a military coup in 1980, and it wasn't democratic. It didn't produce a democratic society in the wake of that military.
Well, it took 20 years.
Absolutely, it takes time, but it doesn't justify.
Yeah, but it can be a way of stabilising a situation that's spiralling out of control.
I don't believe that a country ruled by the military can have any positive aspects to it whatsoever. Not only was a military coup, but it was a highly sophisticated one, planned to coincide with the protests which were planned to...
Well, which came first? Because the argument would be that actually it was the mood on the streets rejecting a government which had not been very successful.
My own view is that the military took advantage of the chaos to yet again impose a military rule. And whatever your views on former President Morsi, he was driven out at the point of a gun and treated like a common criminal. And I think what it shows is that Egypt is a fledgling democracy, and perhaps it needs to be a bit more patient and pragmatic, and knee-jerk reactions like this when things turn rough are not necessarily the right answer.
Sarah, do you have any confidence that the new regime will be able to achieve what the old one clearly couldn't in a year?
Sorry, I'd just like to respond to that, because if this is a military coup, then the first time around it was a military coup as well. The outcome 25th of January, it was more of a military coup than this one, if we want to call it a military coup. And if military coups don't produce a democratic system, then we haven't had a democratic system until now. I would like to object also. I do not think that what we've had with Morsi was democratic. He didn't come. I do not think that he came democratically. There were 3,000 violations. The Carter observers, Carter came out saying that he had known that there was going to be so many restrictions imposed on their observations that he wouldn't have been involved in the first place. So I feel that the Western media continues to just go in too early with Egypt. They called it a democratically elected president. I don't think it was. It's calling it a military coup. We don't know yet if it's a military coup. It's not a democracy yet. So he didn't come democratically.
How do you think the situation could be ameliorated or improved?
If I can just emphasise, because we're talking about semantics and rhetoric defining what a military coup is, it has very real human and indeed political consequences. One of the greatest fears at the moment in the region, not just in Egypt, and it's not just Obama who's expressing deep concern, it's also the military in Egypt. They currently seal their borders for fear of seeing foreign fighters, unsavoury characters, trying to win back
the
Muslim Brotherhood mandate, and they're already battling it out in the Sinai and indeed in the Suez area. So this a nightmare vision of a regional conflict pitting religious insurgents against well-equipped and highly sophisticated Egyptian servicemen is by no means out of the question.
All right, well, thank you both very much indeed. Must stop there. I'm afraid we'll have a lot more on the situation in Egypt coming up in the next hour. But that was Bolton & Co for today. You can find the interviews on the Sky News for iPad app.
Bolton & Co will be back on Monday.